Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another installment of The Now Review. And this time we're finally getting into the festive swing of things. Now everyone has their different sort of time frame as to when they say Christmas has started. For me, I'm a 1st of December kind of guy, so now feels like the right time to talk about this. So join me as we delve into the 2022 editions, both on CD and vinyl, of Now That's What I Call Christmas. So if you're a fan of the Now series, a Christmas album should be no great surprise to you. This is a concept that Now's been running with since the 1980s. I believe the very first Christmas album came out around 1984-85, and ever since like the late 90s, early 2000s, they've released them pretty consistently. Though in recent years, I think they've actually released a new edition every year now since 2019, I want to say. So, but you know, and you think, how much can you do this? You know, how much can you revamp Christmas and all that? So that's what we're going to attempt to find out. So we'll start with the CD version, as we always do. So just looking at this cover here, I must admit this is really nice. It is very similar to the 2021 edition we got last year, although I think we've got a few new characters, like Santa's there, looking particularly interesting. We've got some reindeers here. Rudolph's there on the left, again, looking very interesting. But you know, you got the usual. You got Christmas trees, presents flying around, lots of snow on the logo. I actually quite like the logo. I like the green background that adorns the That's What I Call bit. Red and gold has been like a constant, but I kind of like the green thrown in there as well. Green is just as important colour to Christmas as red and gold. But aside from that, very standard Christmas fare, and of course the covers for the CD and vinyl are the same. So let's flip this bad boy on around and take a look at that all-important Christmas track list. So we're kicking off with Wham! And Last Christmas, one of my favourite songs of the festive period, and one of the biggest, certainly. Some people would have thought, where's Mariah Carey with All I Want for Christmas Is You? Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. But anyway, we carry on with Elton John and Step Into Christmas, another yearly banger, as is Wizzard with I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day, Slade with Merry Xmas Everybody. Again, these are songs you hear every single year, including Paul McCartney with Wonderful Christmas Time, Boney M with Mary's Boy Child, Shakin' Stevens with Merry Christmas Everyone. Mariah Carey is here with Christmas Baby Please Come Home. Now, you do hear this regularly, but it is not her big hit, which is All I Want for Christmas Is You, which in terms of pop music is arguably the definitive. It's not here. We'll have to talk about that more a little bit later. We have Darlene Love with Marshmallow World, Brenda Lee with Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, Bobby Helms with Jingle Bell Rock, the Ronettes with Sleigh Ride, the Jackson 5 with their version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Leona Lewis and One More Sleep. That has really picked up traction in the last decade, hasn't it? As has Kelly Clarkson with Underneath the Tree, Andy Williams with It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, Perry Como and It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas, Dean Martin with Let It Snow, Let It Snow, Let It Snow, Frank Sinatra, so we're getting all the crooners with Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, The Carpenters with Merry Christmas Darling, Nat King Cole with The Christmas Song, and we finish this disc off quite appropriately with Bing Crosby and White Christmas, one of the oldest and still most successful Christmas songs ever released. That's 22 tracks there on CD1, again containing most of the big hits that are played every year. Everyone, I imagine, would know most of these. CD2 kicks off with John Lennon with Happy Xmas War Is Over, Bruce Springsteen with his version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town, nice to see that here, Ed Sheeran and Elton John with their big hit last year, Merry Christmas, it is a nice tune to be fair, Chris Rea with Driving Home for Christmas, that had to be there, didn't it? Bing Crosby and David Bowie with Peace on Earth, or The Little Drummer Boy. Greg Lake with I Believe in Father Christmas, which I've sung live before for an event, that was fun. The Darkness are here with Christmas Time, Don't Let the Bells In. Again, really odd, like, it's a quirky song, but it is really good, so glad that's here. Jonah Louie with Stop the Cavalry. Mel and Kim, that's Kim Wilde, and I can't remember who the Mel is, but with their version of Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. The Beach Boys with Little Saint Nick. Roy Orbison and Pretty Paper. Elvis Presley with Blue Christmas, Mud with Lonely This Christmas, which I've always said is a very underrated track. The Wombles with Wombling Merry Christmas, nice to see they're here. Dana with It's Gonna Be a Cold, Cold Christmas. Johnny Mathis with When a Child is Born. Chris de Burgh with A Spaceman Came Travelling, I really like that one, really good stuff. Jethro Tull with Ring Out Solstice Bells. Mike Oldfield with In Dulce Jubilo. Steel Eye Span and Gaudette. David Essex with A Winter's Tale, and we finish with Cliff Richard with Mistletoe and Wine. Again, another big Christmas song there, so that is another 22 tracks, so we've got 44 so far. CD3 kicks off with The Pogues and Kirsty MacColl and Fairy Tale of New York, an ever controversial song for some of the lyrics involved, but again, another iconic one. And I've also sung that live as well. Band-Aid with Do They Know It's Christmas, I believe that's the original, one of my favourite songs of the season. The Pretenders with 2,000 Miles, The Waitresses with Christmas Wrapping, Coldplay and Christmas Lights. Again, in the last decade, that's really been played a lot over the years. George Ezra with Come On Home for Christmas, Kate Bush with Home for Christmas. Now have been loving Kate Bush this year, haven't they? They really have. Ellie Goulding with River, which I believe hit number 1 last year. Saint Etienne, I'm hoping I'm saying that right, with I Was Born on Christmas Day. Darlene Love again with Christmas Baby Please Come Home, which we had the Mariah version on CD1. The Ronettes with Frosty the Snowman. The Crystals with Rudolph the Red. Gene Autry with Here Comes Santa Claus, which I've never liked that song, I've got to be honest. Ray Conniff with Ring Christmas Bells. Doris Day with I'll Be Home for Christmas. Eartha Kitt with Santa Baby. Jamie Cullum with It's Christmas. Cliff Richards here again with Saviour's Day. Stevie Wonder with Someday at Christmas. Whitney Houston is also here with Do You Hear What I Hear. Celine Dion with her powerful voice is here for Oh Holy Night. And we finish with Alla Jones and John Altman with Walking in the Air, which of course was used in The Snowman. Another 22 tracks, so that's 66. CD4 kicks off with Frankie Goes to Hollywood and The Power of Love. Not necessarily a song about Christmas, but it did hit number 1 around that time of year and always gets played, doesn't it? Adina Menzel with Frozen, or Let It Go, from Frozen. Robbie Williams and Angels. The Spice Girls with Two Become One. Okay, so we're including hits that were number 1 around Christmas time as well. In fact, disc 4 of this is labelled as such. It's like hits at Christmas time. Should have mentioned that. Westlife with their version of I Have a Dream, which I quite like actually. Boyzone with Father and Son. The Human League with Don't You Want Me, Steps and Tragedy, Jason Donovan with When You Come Back to Me, Rick Astley with When I Fall in Love, Donna Summer with Winter Melody, Alexandra Burke with her version of Hallelujah, The House Martins and Caravan of Love, excellent song, The Flying Pickets with Only You, Paul Young with Love of the Common People, I'm going to say this wrong, aren't I? Is it Munchiana Freiheit? I'm probably saying that wrong, with Keeping the Dream Alive, Paul McCartney and the Frog Chorus with We All Stand Together, E17 with Stay Another Day, that gets played every year, and Band-Aid again with the 12-inch mix of Do They Know It's Christmas, so a slightly longer version, really cool to have that there. So yeah, CD4 is a lot of it hits at Christmas time, which I think is a neat concept. We'll talk more about it in just a moment. That's 19 tracks on CD4, so we have a grand total of 85 tracks across 4 CDs. So before I give my thoughts on the track list and just how they've done this here, I'm going to open it up so you can see how it looks inside. Of course, it's all very Christmassy, lots of Christmas stuff going on here, lots of white, red and green, which are the primary colours associated with Christmas. The discs are all the same this time. I don't think there's any real variation apart from saying what discs they are, but they all have, most of it is white with silver snowflakes. The top part of the disc is cut off into a grey, which I can see what they're trying to do there, but I think it just makes the thing look a bit messy. I'd rather have a complete white disc as the background, but you can see red and green adorn the words Now That's What I Call Christmas, so I like elements of it, but definitely not my favourite Christmas disc that Now's ever done. So, I mean, my thoughts on this track list, well, of course they get most of the big Christmas hits on there. You know, CD1 in particular has all of the songs that you hear every year, whether you're out and about in the shops, or you have it on the radio, or you play it yourself. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of the familiar stalwarts here, absolutely. Although one is missing, which is All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey. Now, I'm certain in past Now albums that they have been able to get that song on there, so I don't know what's been going on, because the last few years they haven't been able to manage it. And of course we do have a Mariah song, we have her version of Christmas, but the All I Want song not being there, that just, for a lot of people, that'll make this album feel incomplete, because otherwise, if you had that there, you'd have covered pretty much all your ground of like the major Christmas songs, along with lots of cool little extras. So really big shame that the big Mariah track isn't on there. However, I think this album does well with the 4th disc, as I mentioned, which is actually labelled on the back as hits at Christmas time. I think that's a neat way of getting your 4 discs in as opposed to 3, which at Christmas tends to be 3 discs, or they have in the past. So you get to put another 20 or so tracks on there that aren't necessarily about Christmas, but they were hits around that time of year, or they were the Christmas number 1 or whatever. So I actually quite like that concept, limiting it to the final disc, and as long as you label it as such, I think it actually works really well. In terms of disc 1 to 3, I mean, you know, it's all the stuff you'd expect. I like they got some quirky choices in there, like I said, The Darkness with Christmas Time, really glad that's here, for example. So my main criticism of the track list is just the lack of All I Want for Christmas Is You. That would have really clinched it. As I say, Mariah is there, she's track number 8, but it's not the song you would first think of. So the CD version was retailing for, you know, the usual in most shops, like £10. During Black Friday, some of you might have been able to get it across that week. The Now website, at least, was discounting it to £8. But, you know, give it until after Christmas. If you want to wait, it'll probably come down in price. But £10 is roughly the standard for the CD there. Now we're going to move on to the vinyl edition, the 3LP release. As you can see, the cover, as I said before, is exactly the same. There's no real change to the cover there. And it is 3 discs. No gatefold. These are never gatefold, which I know a lot of people, myself included, complain about because it can just damage the cover, potentially the discs. You know, I really wish they would make it gatefold, but I guess that's an extra cost. So who knows? We're probably not going to get it. So let's turn this around and have a look at what they give us here. I'll be interested to see whether we get the Christmas time hits on here. But anyway, LP1 side A, we've got Last Christmas by Wham, Step Into Christmas, I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day, Merry Xmas Everybody, Mary's Boy Child, Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, Jingle Bell Rock, and Little Saint Nick. Do you know what? For 8 songs, that is a nice, awesome slate there. A lot of stuff that are classics, even further classics, like really old stuff, like the Brindley stuff, for example. So 8 tracks on side A. Side B of LP1 has Do They Know It's Christmas, Merry Christmas Everyone, Christmas, Baby Please Come Home, One More Sleep, Underneath the Tree, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, the Jackson 5 version, Santa Baby, Blue Christmas, and Lonely This Christmas. So that is 9 tracks there again. Nice, good selection. You'll definitely be saying Christmas a lot, that's for sure. So that's 17 tracks on LP1 total. Let's now move to LP2. We have Happy Xmas War Is Over, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, the Bruce Springsteen version, Driving Home for Christmas, Peace on Earth and the Little Drummer Boy, When a Child is Born, Mistletoe and Wine, Christmas Lights, and Home for Christmas. Again, nice blend of the old and new. I'm surprised they put Bruce's version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town on here. I thought one version was enough, but hey, what do I know? Nice to see Coldplay though. But that's 8 tracks on side A. Side B of LP2 has Merry Christmas by Ed Sheeran and Elton John, Wonderful Christmas Time, I Believe in Father Christmas, Christmas, Baby Please Come Home, the Darlene Love version, Sleigh Ride, Rudolph the Red, Wombling Merry Christmas, In Dulce Jubilo, and Stop the Cavalry. So another 9 tracks there, which takes our total overall to 34 across the first 2 LPs. LP3 side A has Fairy Tale of New York, 2,000 Miles, Do You Hear What I Hear, Christmas Wrapping, Marshmallow World, It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas, Let It Snow, and Ring Christmas Bells. So a lot more of the older tracks as we go on there, but nice to have the Pogues on vinyl as well. So that's another 9 tracks on side A. So it seems side B does contain some, not many, but some of those Christmas time hits. It does contain White Christmas, The Christmas Song, Merry Christmas Darling, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, and then 3 songs that were hits at Christmas time. So Keeping the Dream Alive, Stay Another Day, and The Power of Love. And to be honest, in Stay Another Day and The Power of Love, I can see Keeping the Dream Alive, so-so, but they are here nonetheless. So that is another 7 tracks, which means that's 16 tracks on LP3, taking our grand total to 50 tracks across a 3 LP Christmas album. And just taking out one of the discs just so I can show you, this time they are all red LPs. They did do a vinyl release of Now Christmas last year in 2021, although if memory serves, they were the standard black discs. So nice to have coloured discs here. Lovely red hue. You get a bit of the logo there in the label in the middle. So yeah, those are your discs. Love a good red disc. Feels very Christmassy to spin it on the turntable, so they've done well there. Overall, the 50 tracks they've chosen, I think, are well mixed. You know, they get most of the bangers in, they get some of the old classics from like the 40s, 50s, 60s, and they also have a smattering of those Christmas time hits at the very end there. I think they've done it well. In terms of how much it retails for, this one was interesting because, like a lot of the 3 LPs, this was retailing for £30 at the usual places such as the Now website, HMV, etc. Then Amazon, and by the time you're watching this deal may not be in place anymore, but Amazon, I believe as part of Black Friday or just a general sale, not long after this came out, on the 11th of November, they severely discounted it, and you could actually pick up the vinyl from Amazon for about £13 or £14, so less than half price. Pretty bold of them to do that. I know a lot of people seized the deal or it convinced them. And I sort of get why, though, because if you think about it, as I say, we've had Now Christmas albums like every year for the past few years, and especially since we had a vinyl release last year, if you got that, there might not have been much incentive to get this one, so knocking it less than half price in time for the Christmas period makes a lot of sense, and it seems to have worked. Though if you want it now, again, that deal may have run out, so the standard retail is £30. These vinyls tend to be limited, they never tend to say how many, but estimates are between sort of 3,000 and 5,000 normally for this, so if you want it, I get it sooner rather than later. So we've looked at both the CD and the vinyl, and in terms of the Now Christmas lineup, is this one of the good ones? Well, most of the Now Christmas releases are good because they all tend to contain those big hits that you want on an album, alongside some optional but usually very good extras. I'd say maybe this isn't the top. I mean, the lack of the Mariah track, All I Want for Christmas Is You, is a big blot on it, though I do like the fact in the CD version at least you have a whole new disc of Christmas time hits that, you know, songs that don't necessarily have those Christmas overtones but make you feel or think about Christmas, you know. I think that's always a good idea. So it's not the worst Now Christmas album we've had, but it's certainly, maybe, at least in my opinion, it's not the best. But that's all for this installment of the Now Review. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, as always, please be sure to leave a like on this video and let me know in the comments down below, will you be picking up the 2022 edition of Now Christmas? And if you are you going to be picking up the CD version, or are you going to be picking up the vinyl edition, or maybe even both? Or are you going to pass entirely? Have you already got your Christmas album sorted? Maybe you don't need another. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. We'd love to have you aboard here with us. I've been Adam Martin from AMTV. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Hooks Media, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, The Broken Kitsumanoid, Tobos Krotz, Polsky Liz, Globe of Reviews, Trev Hughes, and Kevin Aikman, our AMTV staff members.